So, this review is on the 1978 movie Superman. I probably shouldn't explain half the plot because everybody knows Superman's origin story, so I'm just gonna head to the main conflict. So, Superman, when he's moves to Metropolis, applies for a job at the Daily Planet, and he reports on this. There's this businessman named Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, who who wants to sink California into the San Andreas Fault so that he can replace it with a bunch of real estate and so he can make money off it because he really demands power and he's putting a bunch of lives in danger even though there's so much people in California that just dread over the fact that lots of them are going to die. So Superman has to stop Lex Luthor and also hopefully save everybody in California before it's all blown up and Lex Luthor takes over. Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's insane. I haven't reviewed this. Heck, I haven't even seen this movie until just this weekend. I swear I'm not joking. I know. I know I mostly I've seen a heck of a lot of comic book movies given, I am a comic book reader. I mean, the comic book movies do tend to be hit and miss, but I think this is definitely one of the more important comic book movies that lots of people have seen and is kind of a necessity to watch. And now that I finally see it, how how did I enjoy it? I think it's good. I think it's good. I mean, yeah, I know lots of people say it's one of the best superhero movies ever. And I mean, I get that. Like at the time it was very revolutionary and it definitely makes you really like Superman as a character. But compared to a lot of superhero movies, I mean, there's a lot of really bad superhero movies out there, a lot of bad comic book movies, but this one, it's kind of um some things probably didn't quite age great, but I mean that's not really the movie's fault. I mean, time does affect because for one thing, I think they really for a movie. I know this wasn't the first Superman movie. The first Superman movie was actually in the 50s. It was called Superman and the Mole Man. But for the first, big budget Superman movie, I guess you could say, it doesn't really work great as an origin story. I mean, yeah, they do definitely showcase it, but they mostly just brisk through brisk through his backstory and how Clark was as a kid. I mean, I think the beginning really could have been paced better. I mean, I'm glad you they can just jump into it and you can see Clark as an adult and flying around and stuff. But the thing is, when Clark's a kid, I think it does create a lot of drama and a lot of conflict about how his parents are afraid of him, of how the world will fear him. That's one of the things I really liked about Man of Steel. I know Man of Steel is a movie everybody hates because it's too dark. But here's the thing: I liked Man of Steel's non-linear approach to storytelling because, like half of Man of Steel, you do see Superman as an adult flying around and working at the Daily Planet and such. But every now and then, there's a section of Clark when he's a kid and how he's feared and how his parents react to him. So you get that, and you do get that in this movie, but it is done well. But that's the thing; it's done pretty good. Like you see Jonathan and Martha reacting to the fact that a baby just landed and that he has super abilities and he matures really fast. But the thing is, like, I kind of wanted more of that. I kind of wanted more of the drama between the family because Superman and his adopted parents, like, that's really a lot of the heart of Superman as a character. Like, they're two parents, and sometimes Superman kind of feels bad about what happens to him because they're the first people on Earth he ever saw, and they accepted him for who he is. So you don't really see them in too many scenes. But when the movie is a Superman movie, it's a good Superman movie. I think Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, rest in peace. She is a good Lois Lane. I mean, sometimes she's kind of more of like a plot device. Sometimes she's kind of just used to be saved. She doesn't really have that kind of, smart, snappy kind of personality toward her. She's not really super adventurous. I mean, she's not like a dumb damsel, but she lots of the time she's kind of more so used in part of the suspense, if that makes any sense. But I guess to be fair, this was the 70s, so lots of the damsel in distress stuff was kind of common. Heck, even in a lot of Superman stories, it was common. So I think it definitely does capture that essence of the really old Superman comics where they weren't as deep and the characters weren't as layered as they are today. But I do think it's a good artist in an artistic way. It really works as a little kind of an afterthought of what Superman was. And you do see a lot of really good scenes of him saving people. Of course, he's got to save the cat out of the tree for this little girl, and he's got to stop a bunch of people and he like from falling buildings and stuff. But and the flying scenes, yeah, of course, obviously like the backdrops don't blend well. They're not great, but I think they still managed to make it look believable. Like even if the technology's not that great, especially compared to a lot of blockbusters today, but they really did great with making it look like Christopher Reeve can fly, and you do get a lot of fun scenes with him, and it was definitely very revolutionary at the time to see a character like this. And you really do feel the effort of they really tried to make it, because the tagline for this movie was literally "You will believe a man can fly." And yeah, even though a lot of the effects are pretty dated, like lots of the flying effects are still really great. And heck, it's pretty well made for a movie that came out in 1978. Like even mostly the beginning, I mean, a good chunk of the movie does, like in the first act, that is, does take place on Krypton. But I do kind of like it for that, and I do really like seeing the world of Krypton, and all the practical sets are actually quite good for a movie in the 70s. Like I think lots of the built sets look real good. Okay, I wouldn't say it's as good as like how Gotham City and Tim Burton's Batman looked, but I think for a icy type planet, I think they managed to make it look quite good. And this was a year after the first Star Wars, so you could definitely tell they were experimenting with designing planets and extra and fantasy type extraterrestrial character type locations. And it does look really neat, even though the rest of the movie takes place in Metropolis. And it's still, I mean, Metropolis doesn't have a definitive look. It never really did. It's just kind of a city. And I mean, it's still what you expect from a Superman movie. It definitely looks like that. And Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, I do like him. I know, I remember some people, I guess technically even myself included, thought Jesse Eisenberg was a horrible Lex Luthor because he didn't look and sound intimidating. Let's be real. Gene Hackman's is a really good actor. I do admit. I mean, I got nothing against. I think he's great, but let's be real. His Lex Luthor is. I don't want to say corny. It's not. He's not so like, oh, you know what? Compared to a lot of superhero movies nowadays, this movie is not really silly. But let's just say Hackman's Lex Luthor is kind of over the top. Let's just say, for a lack of a better word, like he doesn't look and sound menacing. He's kind of just, he feels a bit cartoony, but not too much. He's not level. He's not Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. Heck no. He's just kind of, he just feels a tad, over the top, I guess is the right word. Like he doesn't really, like he tries to be like a powerful, angry businessman. He doesn't really feel evil. He feels more like a caricature than a character, if that makes any sense. But I guess to be fair, like in the Silver Age of comic books, Lex Luthor was kind of just more so a one type personality evildoer. He wasn't really a strong villain with an understandable motivation. But yeah, even though he wasn't intimidating, I still like him. Him and Christopher Reeve have really good scenes together, and they work really well with each other. Heck, everybody does. So yeah, Superman, it's a good movie. If you've never seen it and if you're a Superman fan, I'm pretty sure every Superman fan has seen this, but I'd say check it out. I mean, it is dated in some cases, but I still think it's quite good. So, goodbye, everybody, and hope you all had a happy Mother's Day.